In the last video, I told you that pure functions cannot change or mutate their arguments. So a concept that goes hand in hand with pure functions is immutability, which basically means once we create an object, we cannot change or mutate it. If we want to change that object, we have to take a copy first and then change that copy. For example, strings in JavaScript and in most programming languages are immutable. So if you have a string and then try to convert it to uppercase, we get a new string. The original string is not affected. In contrast, if you have an object, we can change or mutate that object directly. So in JavaScript, objects and arrays are not immutable. And that's why I told you that JavaScript is not a pure functional programming language. In pure functional languages, we cannot mutate data, period. But in JavaScript, we can mutate objects and arrays because JavaScript was not designed to be a functional language. It's a multi-paradigm language, but we can still apply functional programming principles when writing JavaScript code. Now, what about the const keyword? Well, this is a common misconception. When you use const, you're not creating an immutable object. So we can declare book as a constant and then change its title property. With const, we cannot reassign book to a different object. So const prevents reassignment, okay? Now, what are the benefits of immutability? Well, the first benefit is that it makes our applications more predictable. If we call a function and pass an object to it, we know that object is not going to get changed. So there are no surprises down the road. The second benefit of immutability, which is kind of specific to React and Redux kind of applications, is that it makes it faster to detect changes. So you know that React needs to know when the state is changed so it can trigger re-rendering. For example, let's say we have a book object stored in the memory location 100. Now, if we follow immutability, to change a property of this object, we have to create a new object. This object is going to be stored in a different location in memory, let's say 200. Now, React can quickly tell if an object is modified because it compares these objects by the references. It's like comparing 100 with 200. This is a very fast operation. In contrast, if we don't use immutability, React has to compare every property of an object to see if it's changed. So immutability makes change detection faster. And the third benefit of immutability is concurrency. If we know that a function does not mutate data, we know that we can safely run this function in parallel. It's not going to change something in memory that's going to mess up the state of the system as a whole. So, doesn't mean object mutation is bad and we should always favor immutability. Well, if you ask John Smith, he would say that's exactly right. But in my opinion, every approach, every technique has its own uses, pros, and cons. Anyone telling you that one technique is objectively good or bad in all situations is selling you something. So we talked about the benefits of immutability, but these benefits are not free of cost. There is a potential performance cost to immutability because every time we change an object, all the values should be copied to the new object. However, this would only be an issue if you're dealing with a large number of objects, let's say several thousand or hundreds of thousands of objects. If you're dealing with a few objects, that's not going to be an issue. Another problem with immutability is that copying objects can also cause memory overhead. But we have immutability libraries out there that reduce these overheads as much as possible. They use a technique called structural sharing. So if some values are common between two objects, they're not copied across, they're shared. We'll talk about these libraries soon. So the bottom line is, if you're building applications with Redux, you should not mutate data because that's a fundamental principle in Redux. Outside of Redux, you can do whatever you want. So now that you understand what immutability is and why it's important, let's see how we can practice it in JavaScript.